Welcome to this video. Today I'm joined by Emma, who is a coach here at Plant Power Transformations. And today we're going to find out a bit more about Emma's story of becoming vegan, how she got into the fitness industry, and also about her story of competing as a vegan bodybuilder. But first of all, welcome Emma. How are you doing?
Well, thank you. How are you?
Very good, very good. And I'm excited to have you here. I think probably the best place to start off is about your own vegan story. So if you can, tell us a bit about that and what prompted you to make the switch.
Well, I was a very headstrong child. I was kind of that little kid who was always trying to make friends with squirrels or like bringing home injured birds. So I think it was pretty inevitable. As my childhood went on, I kind of cut more and more animal products out of what I would allow myself to eat. And by the time I was 12, I kind of went on a hunger strike until my parents let me be fully vegan because they were very anti it. And they agreed when I was 12, but I had to cook all my own meals, and they had a bet on it that it would only last a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And I bet you that spurred you on.
Yeah, and at the end of the year, I was like, "Where's my $50, please, from winning my bet?"
And what was that like at that age, being vegan?
Um, I didn't meet another vegan until I was 19, and I remember I just met him in a random cafe, and I was like, "Can I please hug you?" Um, it was it was strange just because I was different, but by choice. Um,
Yeah.
and obviously showing my age a bit here, but it wasn't easy access to the internet. So I had to learn about veganism and nutrition through books. So I'd just go to the library and rent out all the food dictionaries and all the nutrition books I could.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
And that's led to you becoming quite a good cook, right? Because it's making your own meals from the age of 12 and then only doing it from a vegan standpoint as well.
And back then you couldn't even really get vegan cookbooks. You had to get vegetarian ones and then try and figure out how to take the dairy out.
And I'm guessing there was no like proper meat substitutes like there are now.
No, yeah, there was tofu and there was these disgusting, they were called like chicken fillets that were like a soy thing about this big that were absolutely awful.
Mm.
And then there was nut meat in a can. I think,
Nutty.
yeah, I think it still exists now actually.
Yeah.
Um, there was that, and that was pretty much it. There was one brand of soy milk, and then the other thing was rice milk, which was
Mm.
obviously awful. And soy milk back then was terrible. It tasted like soybeans. There was nothing nice about it.
So for those watching, Emma is a registered dietitian, and you can only become a registered dietitian by studying dietetics at university. So if you can, tell people a little bit about what made you interested in that and what led you becoming qualified in that field.
So I was in my 20s and I remember I got into a debate with someone, pretty heavy debate about something nutrition related, and I knew I was right.
Yeah.
And he said to me, "Are you a nutritionist?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, maybe you should be." And I was like, "Maybe I should be." And it played on my mind for a couple of weeks because I'd always wanted to find a way to help people, but
Mm.
hadn't figured out how to do that that would best suit me.
Yeah.
And yeah, then I re-enrolled in uni, went back to uni as a mature age student and did my dietetics degree.
Amazing. And how long does that take? Is it a 3 year or a 4 year?
Oh, yeah.
4. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you're doing that, what kind of stuff do you cover? Because obviously, being a dietitian, it actually gives you special, let's say, powers to be able to help people who are struggling with certain conditions and lots of other things as well. So, just explain a little bit more about that.
So the first 2 years are basically pre-med. So you're doing all the same classes as the biomed students, the dentists, the people who are going to be doctors. So everything from making aspirin to reading ECGs, which at the time I would get frustrated for because I'm like, I'm not going to need this. And then the second 2 years were purely dietetics. And
Yes.
that would be everything from running public health programs to working in a clinic to working in hospitals.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you got qualified as a registered dietitian. And then what was your job after that? And kind of talk about what progressed from there onwards.
So then I worked in a hospital for a bit and I absolutely hated it. So then I opened my own clinic. Um, and again, I got quite frustrated with that because I kind of just told people they were going to have diabetes or cardiovascular disease if they didn't start changing their diets. So then I went down the route of just focusing on plant-based nutrition.
Yes. Yes. And that's obviously something you were super passionate about as well. So I'm assuming that felt much more fulfilling and much more aligned with who you were as a person, right?
Absolutely. And I'm not having to argue with people about why bacon is bad for them.
Yes. Yeah. Don't want to get into that topic.
Yeah.
And then how did you end up becoming a qualified PT as well? I know one thing then linked into another, didn't it? And that's how it progressed. But if you can tell everyone a little bit about that.
So I had already been lifting pretty seriously for about 5 years. And the gym I was training at, the owner of that gym had agreed that I could use the group fitness space to run nutrition workshops. Anyway, he came up to me one day and he's like, Emma, I really need a PT. He's like, you lift perfectly and you're in here all the time anyway. And if you're going to be working out of here, do you just want a PT as well? Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I could do that.
Yeah.
Went and got qualified. Yeah, and did that for how long was I there for? I think 3 years full time.
And I guess, did that feel nice as well? Because beforehand, when you were purely focusing on the nutrition aspect, did it then feel nice to help people with the exercise side of things and the nutrition so it could be like the full package?
Yeah, absolutely. The two obviously link really well together. But the other
Mm.
bonus of it is I would see people that were purely PT clients, but then
Mhm.
because I would do all their nutrition for them, they'd all
Yeah.
just gradually switch over to being plant-based.
Yes. Yes. So you could have your impact there and help people make the switch.
Yeah, absolutely.
And obviously, with that as well, when you combine the two, that's what creates real change for people. So, talk a little bit about who you were working with at that time and kind of what goals you were helping people achieve.
Well, in the beginning, when I first opened the clinic, I kind of started it was my first time having an Instagram account. And back then, there weren't really any people who lifted that were qualified dietitians and vegan. So I was
Yeah.
really lucky. I had some really fun clients. I had a professionals like cyclist in the States, people in the UK, I had an Australian cyclist, Australian kayaker, um, heaps of bodybuilders or people who wanted to get into that space and start competing.
Yeah.
I did a lot of rehab work as well at that point.
Mm.
And then just people who were lifting and wanted to be vegan, but kind
Yeah.
of didn't. They kept getting told by PTs they couldn't lift and be vegan. So it,
Yeah, definitely. So kind of a full range, like the general population person, but then also the kind of more extreme, someone wanting to like compete, for example, in a show, that kind of thing.
yeah, and I did a lot of diets for boxers. So
Interesting. Yeah.
yeah, so a friend of mine is a pretty well-known boxing coach. So I did all of his cuts for his clients, for his uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, for his clients. And then when they were bulking, in their muscle stages as well. And then he referred me, and so I started doing quite a few boxing gyms, which was fun.
That must have been fun. Something a little bit different there as well, like actually getting someone ready for a proper competition like that.
And the good things with boxers is they're really good with their adherence.
Yes. Yeah, oh, for sure. If they've got to make a weight, they have to make that weight. If not, they can't fight, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Obviously, having those three things, PT, registered dietitian, and being vegan as well is quite a unique skill set. So tell everyone if you can a bit about how you built your name, because then you were living in Australia at the time and you became pretty well known, didn't you, for those three things and helping lots of different people.
I guess the vegan community, especially where I was living on the Gold Coast in Australia at the time, we were all pretty
Mm,
tight knit. When I first moved down there wasn't that many of us. Maybe
mhm.
like
Yeah.
60, 100 that would all kind of like, we all knew each other and would help each other out. And then as the community grew, anytime somebody needed a dietitian, it was like, oh, there was only really two of us. It
Yeah.
was like, go
Yeah.
see me or go see this other lady. But she doesn't lift. She is like
Mm,
a clinical dietitian, and that's all she does.
yes.
So, yeah. And I did a couple of podcasts. A friend of mine is very vocal as an animal activist and a podcaster, and so he loved getting me on to talk all things nutrition.
I can imagine. And then obviously that unique skill set, like I mentioned, is something different. But not only did you have that, you then actually went on to walk the walk as a coach, which I really, really respect. and you ended up competing in a bodybuilding show yourself.
Mhm.
So if you can explain a little bit about that and what happened in the end of it.
So I think as I have told you before, Andrew, like it was never anything I wanted to do. Like being on stage, people looking at me absolutely wasn't my jam. But I had somebody tell me I couldn't do it. I had a gentleman approach me in the gym and said, "What federation do you compete in?" I said, "Oh, no, 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 I don't compete." And so a powerlifting coach who was next to me at the time said, "Oh, she couldn't compete."
Yeah.
This man and I have turned around and said, "Why not?" He's like, "Oh, well, she's vegan and she's all natural." I was like, "Well, then
Yeah.
why can't I compete?" He's like, "It would be too hard for you." So I competed in a next competition, like closest in time to that. And I came second. They told me it was too big. So I did sports model division. Then I did one a few months later, about 6 months later, and I won that one. And then I never wanted to do one ever again. I felt like I proved my point and I
Yeah. Yeah.
didn't have to do it again.
And that's an incredible achievement. Like, number one, just being able to be in good enough shape to actually do one of those shows, but then actually winning it as a natural competitor, that doesn't happen very often, does it?
Well, you definitely have like the natural shows. And in Australia, you do have like tested and untested shows.
Yes. Yes.
But when I did the second one, I went into an untested show.
So how do you think being vegan helped you or helped play a part in winning that competition? Obviously, there was a lot of work that went in on your end, but the nutrition had a big part to play.
The biggest thing, and I used to have this conversation with my peers, vegan and not vegan, is not getting DOMS, not getting sore. So my
Yeah.
capacity to train seemed to be a lot higher than everybody else's. And I've literally put it down to my body's not wasting calories or time trying to metabolize animal products. It's
Yeah.
spending all that time healing my muscles and fixing my body. I also was obviously really strict with my nutrition and I was whole food plant-based that whole time.
Yeah.
Um, and I started, and because being a whole food plant-based and having lifted for so long, I started from quite a lean base. Whereas
Yeah.
everybody else had to get to really low calories. Like a lot of the women I knew were on 1100, 1200 calories. I think the lowest I got was like 2 weeks at 1600.
That's incredible.
And everybody else was cutting carbs, but I really like carbs. I wasn't cutting them.
Who doesn't? Yeah, and like you said, a massive anti-inflammatory part of the vegan diet, the fact that it is so good at reducing inflammation, just gave you that extra capacity and extra edge, maybe compared to the other competitors.
Yeah. I think that's all I can put it down to. It's funny, I actually asked to do my doctorate on my
Mm.
PhD on that fact. And
Yeah,
I got told by my university, no one will pay for that research. No one cares about veganism that much. And so,
yeah,
a
yeah.
different story now, I think.
Yes, it would. I'm sure it would. I'm noticing a common theme. I'm surprised you didn't end up somehow finding a way to do that because the powerlifter said you couldn't um do the show and you did it.
Yeah.
Your parents, when you were 12-year-old, they said, I bet she won't be vegan. You did it. So there's something there when someone tells you you can't do it, that gives you that extra boost and drive.
Yeah, I think it had been 10 years at university by then, so I think I was kind of done.
Yes, yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. So obviously you've been coaching people for a long period of time. What is it that you love about being a coach?
Mm, watching people gain confidence through experience, like when they set themselves goals and I've kind of empowered them with the tools to be able to do it. And just watching them grow and glow and achieve what they set out to achieve,
Yeah,
that really makes me happy.
I completely agree. Obviously, the physical and aesthetic point of a transformation is great, but I honestly think one of the best things about doing something like a body transformation is the confidence it gives you, because obviously it is hard. That's the truth. But when you follow through with something hard, it gives you so much confidence that you can do hard things, which then pays off in all other areas of your life.
Yeah. And the self-identity that comes with I'm someone who's fit and healthy, I'm someone who goes to the gym, like that gives people more confidence in all the other areas of their life as well.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, you spent a quite a large period of your life in Australia. Now you're back in the UK. What was it that brought you back to the UK?
Love I'm in. So it was much easier for me to relocate here than for him to relocate there.
Yeah. How long were you doing long distance for before that?
We weren't really. We've been friends and would see each other when we were in the same country for about 15 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And eventually I said to him at the end of last year, look, let's do this properly and actually be in the same country.
Yes. Yeah. No, good. And back in Bristol now, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
Which is pretty good for the vegan scene.
I think so. Oh, went to a
Mm.
really amazing vegan Indian restaurant the other night, so that was a win. But I tend to cook more than go out. I like my cooking better than most other people's.
Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, to finish then, I'm going to ask you three quick fire questions.
Okay.
So give your best answers as quickly as possible. So if you weren't a coach, what do you think you'd be doing?
Maybe an author.
Interesting. You do like your writing and creating things, don't you?
Mm.
Second question is, what's your favorite song to give you a boost in a workout?
I don't have a favorite song, but anything with a grimy bass line. Like give me grime, drum and bass, reggaeton,
Nice.
Afro beats, anything that you'll see me mid-set, just dancing in the gym.
Having a little groove.
Yeah, I'm that one.
Yeah. Nice. And then final question is, what's your favorite country you've been to and why?
I don't think I have a favorite, but probably the most beautiful was Palau. So it's a tiny little country in Micronesia and the South Pacific. The whole country, all of the water, all of the land is completely protected. I scuba dive, and it is the most incredible water and reef and diving I've ever seen. And
Yeah.
everything is just lush and beautiful. I think I walked around that whole trip with just my jaw dropped at how beautiful everything was.
Wow. I've never heard of that place. What part of the world is it in, did you say?
Micronesia,
Micronesia. And
so
that's
Australia, Papua New
yeah.
Guinea, Micronesia. It's a
Wow.
6 hour flight.
Yeah. I can imagine that's very beautiful then, because it seems like it's very far away and probably quite untouched compared to a lot of the places that most people go to these days.
Absolutely. Have you heard of Guam?
I've not, no,
So
no.
there's an American naval base there, which is another island that's close to it.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Emma, for your time
Yep.
today. And also, thank you very much, everyone, for watching.